I guess what I'm trying to say is like, not everyone who reads stories on the news that are really hard then goes out and actually like responds creatively.
Maybe it was just like I think part of it was, man, when I was 15, I wasn't on CNN. Like I wasn't reading Wall Street Journal. And I didn't have I just wasn't intaking like all the negativity of the news cycle. And so I think that was a big part too, was like, man, that was the first big thing that really hit me, at least from like global humanitarian perspective. Like, man, here's a story and this is a huge issue.
Welcome to the Simple Charity Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Grosso, and thank you for being a part of our listener community as we all learn to love generously like Jesus. In this episode, I interview Griffin Storm and Nikki Hathaway, two top-notch young men who graduated from Norman High School in Oklahoma. And together, these two guys raised tens of thousands of dollars to provide safe water to the poor around the world while they were teenagers. Today, they're in college and work with me part-time on the Simple Charity team. And in this conversation, I ask them to tell the story of Norman Water Club. I hope you join me for an inspiring story of two young men who learned about a source of human suffering and put in a tremendous amount of work to do something about it. You'll learn about the global water crisis, the connection between lament and love, and the super creative ideas that Griff and Nikki implemented to fundraise for clean water. This is your podcast, so send me your thoughts, questions, and suggestions at brian@simplecharity.org, and I am so glad that you are with us today.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I serve as a Simple Charity philanthropic advisor to individuals, couples, families, foundations, and family offices in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area of North Carolina, but also to clients around the country. If you're curious about your own generosity journey and would like help thinking through a philanthropic strategy with intentionality to discern where God is calling you to love people, to find excellent nonprofits to partner with, or to understand the impact of your current grant making, I would love to connect and share more about Simple Charity's philanthropic advising offerings. You can connect with me at melissahall@simplecharity.org. That's melissahall@simplecharity.org. And you can learn more about us at simplecharity.org. That's simplecharity.org.
Griffin, Nikki, so good to have you guys on the Simple Charity Podcast. Welcome. And what are you guys grateful for today? Griffin, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start. Um, I'm calling from Durham, from Duke University, and I just went for a walk in the Duke Gardens, and it is peak cherry blossom season. Um, so it's absolutely beautiful. There's so many people out just enjoying the nature, and yeah, it's sunny. I'm grateful for cherry blossoms today.
Wonderful. Nikki, how about you?
Griffin, my answer is going to be very similar to yours. I'm grateful for the warmer weather here in Norman, Oklahoma. The high is 80 today, and recently I traveled to Stockholm, Sweden, and there it's like the high was like 45. So it's nice that the Norman weather welcomed me back with mid 70s to higher to 80s. So grateful for the weather here in Norman.
It's beautiful here in Georgia too. So we're all enjoying some good weather. The cherry blossoms at Duke are like they're like famous, like decently famous. If you haven't seen those before, I do highly recommend looking up some pictures. Duke Gardens, cherry blossoms in the spring, really awesome, really awesome. You guys are both from Norman, Oklahoma, and have both been involved in water clubs. And in raising money to fight the global water crisis and combat that. So we're going to talk about that today. And really what I want to do today is just to have you guys both share your stories and how those stories connect with each other. And we can start with Griffin. And I met Griffin when he was a freshman, maybe at Duke?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Freshman
Yeah.
year. Yep.
Yeah. Griffin was a freshman at Duke. I was living at actually living at a place called the Center for Christianity and Scholarship at Duke, at the little apartment upstairs. And I had my guitar out in the main open area, and Griffin would come to the house and just like play my guitar. And I had it out there so that students would use it. But I actually don't remember how we met, Griffin. Do you remember?
Well, I've been playing your guitar for months without your knowledge,
Yes.
and and there were always little children like crying, or just like I could hear little kid sounds coming from your apartment.
Yeah.
So I always wondered who lived in there. Little did I know it was Brian. I think one day I was out doing work, and you walked out, and we started looking at like the library. There's some books,
Yeah.
like a little bookshelf up there, and we saw this book, Thirst. I think you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, "Oh, it looked like Thirst." I read that, and I was like, "No way." That was the book that kind of set me on to clean water. It's Thirst by Scott Harrison, autobiography, and so we started talking about water immediately. Just looking at this bookshelf, it's quite beautiful actually.
And that's the path to Griffin Storm's heart, is to start talking to him about water. is what I learned pretty quickly. Yep. And so, well, yeah, Griffin, tell us the story of when you first read the book Thirst by Scott Harrison.
Yeah. Well, I was a sophomore in high school, and so my mom actually made me read it. I didn't want to read it. Let's be clear. She read this book. She thought I would kind of resonate with Scott Harrison for some reason. And so I went on a trip to Utah with my brother. Hadn't read it for the whole week. We went hiking, and on the plane ride back, I realized I hadn't started it. And my mom was like really excited to talk to me about the book. And so I was clutching up the assignment on the plane ride back, and I opened it on the plane, and I just read it all the way through. I didn't put it down. I got home that night, and I read until like 2 or 3 a.m. And finished the whole thing. And in that book, there's a story called Letikiros' story. And I remember reading that in my bed late that night. And basically it's about a 13-year-old girl in Ethiopia. So she was not much younger than I was when I read the book. And kind of just her life. Like, she would walk 4 to 5 days a week to go and collect water for her family, up to 6 hours a day. So that meant she couldn't attend school. Her family would hire a donkey to go and collect the water 1 day a week so she could attend. And her life just seems so starkly different from mine. Like, had no clue about the global water crisis till I read this book. And Letikiros, when she was 13, she was walking home with a friend after a 6 or 7 hour journey to collect water. And when her friend and her separated paths, she was getting close to her village, and she tripped and dropped the clay pot that she used to collect water. So the clay pot shattered, the water, absorbed into the earth, and she lost a whole day of work. And so feeling, you would imagine, like exhausted, kind of shameful of breaking the pot, she took the rope that she used to carry the pot, and she took her own life on a tree outside of her village. And I remember reading that part and just like tears flooding down my face, just like in disbelief about how this could happen. And so, yeah, from that moment on, I think that's been an issue that's so close to my heart, is people who, like Letikiros, have to struggle just to get water. It really all started from that, the power of a story.
Griffin, how old are you when you read Thirst and started wrestling with just this reality of people don't have water and are dying from lack of water?
I was 15. Yeah, sophomore year of high school or summer.
So you're 15. You have this, like, read this book, and what do you do with kind of that? I almost want to call it like lament, like actually, like there's a great quote I like from a guy named Andy Crouch, public kind of theologian. He says, all God-given creativity starts with lament. And I think about that quote every time I hear you share your story, and how, like, actually confronting the really dark and broken things in our world can be a catalyst for action. And that is and a catalyst for creativity. And I think that the Water Club story is one of you taking that lament and those, that just compassion really for people who are global neighbors, but also strangers, and turning that into creative action. So what was the journey from reading the book, feeling the heaviness and the sadness of the reality of the global water crisis, from there into creative action?
I mean, crying first, like, man, just really sitting with it. And I think just letting myself, like, feel those emotions before trying to do anything first. Just, like, trying to understand the water crisis and, like, how we got to this point. That's been a journey since then, is like, man, why is the world like this? Why do we have potable water coming out of our sprinkler systems in Norman, Oklahoma to keep our lawns green? But, like, people in Africa don't have water within a 6-hour walk of them, and the water that they're getting is still dirty. So I think, yeah, just as you said before, like, lamenting, and letting our hearts break is, like, that's been a really important process for me. Just accepting that, like, the world's a broken place and there's a lot of suffering. But then as a driver for creativity, not staying there, but telling other people about it, not being moved into isolation, but being moved into action with others. And I think that's been the most redeeming part of water clubs and kind of addressing the global water crisis is doing it with other people, with people like Brian Grasso, and Nikki Hathaway. That's been one of the best parts, is kind of spreading that fire and hearing about how other people are passionate about it too.
Yeah. So tell us the story of the founding of Norman Water Club.
Yeah. Well, after I read that book, I knew I couldn't just sit there. Like, I had to do something. And so I started talking with my dad. Luckily, both my parents were, like, really supportive, in trying to do fundraisers and telling people. And I couldn't shut up about Let the Heroes' story and Scott Harrison and Charity Water. And so I was telling all my friends in Norman, on my soccer team, like on my cross country team, about this issue. And so,
and one of those,
when I got back,
one of those friends on the soccer team is Nikki, or maybe not yet, or is that, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was early on. Yeah. So Nikki and I ran cross country together, at Norman High School. and so we had summer practices, in July and August. So once I got back from my trip in Utah, reading that book, started talking about it, and it seemed like the logical thing to do, when you're 15, like 16, like, what are you going to do? Start a club? Yeah, let's do it. And so we knew early on, Nikki was involved in the first semester, would have been my junior fall, his sophomore fall. We knew that we needed to attract people some way other than telling them, like, a very sad story of suffering. Like, so we thought, what better way than with pizza And so we we went on a journey to get sponsored free pizza for our club, so that we could tell people about the water crisis. So we were going to lure them with pizza and then tell them about water. And so we went to this joint called Slice House Pizzeria, and we told the founders, Danny and Bucky, about dirty water, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds great. Like, we'll give you 6 cheese pizzas." and so we started advertising, posting on social media. Like, we got on the school announcements and said, "Hey, come, free pizza, come to Water Club." And that's really how it started.
And Nikki, what was your role in Water Club?
So the founding year of Water Club, I'm pretty sure I was the treasurer, right? And so
The money guy.
I would
He's
just show
still
up to
the
the
money
meetings.
guy.
Sometimes I would help out with attaining the pizza and bringing it to the meetings. I became very familiar with Bucky from Pizza Hut, and he still helped me out last year with my water walk. So that experience is very beneficial.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So okay, what'd you do? Like, you like, let's start a club. We got free pizza. Let's tell people about the water crisis. But like, telling people about the water crisis, like, is an important first step. But it's not like the same thing as giving people access to clean water. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about what that first year looked like and what the impact was.
Yeah. I'll tell a part of junior year, and then maybe Nikki, you can cover like some of our later projects, initiatives. So junior year was 2019, going into 2020. And so, man, like, I guess looking back on it, it was kind of dry. Like, we would have weekly or bi-weekly meetings, and I would put together a Google Slides, literally, of just kind of like educational facts about the water crisis.
Don't forget
like
COVID.
COVID's coming. And it would be like, oh, what are the top 5 countries that have the least access to clean water? Like Papua New Guinea, 54% of people don't have clean water. Things like that. And then we would watch videos from Charity Water, of people actually in the field. And then we'd talk about it, like, hey, brainstorm, what can we do about this? Like, we did a lot of brainstorm sessions, trying to get some ideas out. And so not much fundraising, I guess, in the fall. Is more just like trying to get people to come, like begging them to come to Water Club. But then in the spring, we did, Nikki, do you remember our video project that we did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like 2 to 3 minute. Do you remember that well?
So we filmed it at the first Fall Fest, right? In the fall of that would be the fall of 2019, right? And we had pictures from Reed, right? He went around filming videos of the water walk that we hosted, and then we had a list of facts over it. You started us out in that video, right, Griffin, with like an introduction, and then we basically went through the water walk in a video setting, and it was 2 to 3 minutes. You're right.
And where'd you guys share that video?
Instagram.
And
Yep.
Nice. The first Water Club commercial, potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Norman Water Club Instagram. But we had been like, oh, guys, everyone in the club, like, go raise $100, and then we'll have, $2,000 or $3,000. And it was hard to, just to say, people go do that. And so we thought, oh, it's a lot easier. Maybe we do like a digital fundraising marketing campaign where, like, we're going to film this 2 or 3 minute video. We had people stationed in different parts of the school talking about, facts about the water crisis. So we got 10 of our members to volunteer to speak in that. And then I think late February, last week of February, we 2020, we sent that out.
Wow.
We're like, everyone send it to 10 people, and that was going to be our big fundraiser, because it's a lot easier to tap, send this video like, hey, can you give us $10? And then COVID hit like 2 weeks after that.
Yep.
So
yep.
I think we raised 5,000 that first year, like from, various little campaigns. So that was our start.
Carry the Jerry.
Huh?
We introduced Carry the Jerry that year. So we would carry a 40-pound Jerry that held 5 gallons around school, and we would just tell people, spread awareness of the water crisis and just overall spiel. And I mean, at the end of the day, carrying that thing, your body would be so sore.
So it's full of water. It is a 5
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 5-gallon tank.
5-gallon, 40-pound. Yeah. And by the end of the day, I mean, you go to soccer practice and still feel the effects of the carrying the Jerry around the school.
Yeah, Carry the Jerry was iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, like, first off, it rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Second off, it's like you're walking the schools of your public high school, like, with a freaking gasoline can. Like, what are you doing? It's a great conversation starter. But also, it's really hard. I mean, like, if you think about, we had, freshmen, sophomores, like freshman girls in the club, like, carrying this thing around school.
Just lugging this 40-pound.
Yeah, I mean, it truly a physical and mental challenge to carry it just to our classes, and like some of the cross country guys they do Carry the Jerry, and they put their Garmin's on and like track the distance, and we were walking like less than a mile total per day, and it was still like you'd be sore for a week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like thinking about how far people walk for water around the world, and it's maybe you guys would know, but I think it's usually 3 or 4 miles on average, or for people who don't have a water source that's nearby and that's approved. Okay, so that's year 1. Tell me about year 2. So COVID happens. Not a good time for student organizations. And what do you guys do in the COVID years?
Nikki, do you remember remember when we went and painted that fence?
We did, yes. Mm-hmm. The Wagner. Yeah.
Yep. So basically, Water Club became outsourced labor. We were like, okay, it's COVID time. Like, we're not really in school. A lot of people were hybrid, virtual. So we were thinking, what if we got our people to go and volunteer and do something good in the community, and then businesses can just make a disproportionate donation to our cause. And so we had a couple of friends in the club who their parents owned a farm, which meant they had like miles of fence. And so we got Water Club out there and we painted that fence, baby. we spent a whole day painting, and they gave a really nice kind donation. So we're basically like out, we're out there working for water, and that was really fun too, just see people show up, and it's like we had something to show for it. So that was like an underrated fundraiser, I thought. Because we help the community, help someone paint their fence, but also helping, clean water.
And y'all aren't doing Carry the Jerry during COVID, right? I mean, were you home, remote, so still organizing people like during the COVID years remotely?
Well, this was going into my senior year, so this was 2020. Nikki's junior year. Norman High, like in Oklahoma, COVID wasn't,
People are, still going to school. Okay.
Yeah, I think our high school was actually like the first high school that was fully back in person, like on the first day. So
that's probably how it was here in Forsyth County too. And
really,
yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, so we were back, but I think fall 2020 we did Carry the Jerry like full on, right, Nikki?
I believe
I think
so.
we had a
because there's a lot of us wearing masks, carrying the Jerry.
And then I think you also told me about like a wine to water event. What was tell us about the wine to water event that a bunch of you high school students were putting on?
Yeah, one of the more like spicy, controversial water club fundraisers. Um, I guess, yeah, 2020 we were trying to do more fun events, like put the fun back into fundraising. And so we did a fall festival, and we knew some people that owned a vineyard like outside of Norman. And so our idea was, hey, let's go and put all these like fun, outdoor activities end of October. So we had like axe throwing, we had like bobbing for apples. You could just go and walk around the grounds. And on the grounds of
Nothing like
Go ahead.
alcohol and axe throwing.
Great combo. But on the grounds of the vineyard, we set up a water walk, which Nikki was talking about earlier. And Nikki had a key, so they had like different stations. But Nikki can talk about that more because he had his own station.
My station was the effects of contaminated water. So it was set up. The first station would be the overall water scope. It would include just like which countries were affected, just overall water facts. And then they went down to me, and I talked about the effects of contaminated water. And I remember vividly putting this together. I was just researching like information off of the World Health Organization and WASH. And I compiled it all within like the day before actually presenting it. And I thought it was all going to be just fine. I'll just list the facts, and then they would move down to get the water from the lake, because the site we were hosting it actually had like a pond with dirty water. But my realization of like, wow, this is a serious problem, is that when I was sharing the facts with like over 100 people there, I was super uncomfortable, and I was starting to like struggle, like just listing off like the number of deaths that were connected with the water related diseases. And that's really was my moment of like, I want to become more involved and help serve this club. But then after my station, they would go down to the pond, get the contaminated water, and then we would share the Let's Hero story with them. And then post that, we would then try and brighten the mood a little bit with like how to solve, like how can you donate, and what we had a list of like the donation. If you donate $1, it'll turn out to be like $40. Is that ratio right, Griffin?
Yep, it's about 40.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And then
you donate $1, it turns into $40 for of what?
For towards a well, and like the overall economic impact of the U.S. dollar into like what it can do for a community. And then Griffin would then close it out with like, how can you donate, and then just the overall like story about the founding of the club. So, and overall, it was a great series of like stations to encourage people to donate. I feel like we set it up pretty well.
So you guys are like literally 16 and 17-year-olds hosting this event at a vineyard, fundraising event for a charity you don't work for. And it has stations that are like educational on the global water crisis. You're like making the pitch for this cause. You're making the ask. I mean, you're basically doing what nonprofit professional fundraisers do, And like, I know a lot of these people have been to like these fundraising events for, big donors or whatever, but you guys are doing this like 16 and 17-year-olds without any, I mean, like, is your like dad still involved? I mean, this is y'all doing this work, not, another organization, not, like an outside, I don't know what to say, like grown up, like, is that correct in saying that?
Well, we had so much help. I mean, I know my parents, John and Susan, and Nikki's parents, and even the people who own the vineyard, like I mean, they were critical in helping us just gather the materials and like, oh, maybe we should think about this. Maybe we should think about this, like safety like concerns, maybe don't put the axe throwing like right next to the station. So we had a lot of help. We had a faculty sponsor at our high school. And she was a good, wise, mature presence for us. And she really cared about the cause, Mrs. Thacker. Shout out Mrs. Thacker. But essentially, yeah, we hadn't connected with Charity Water. We hadn't connected with, we eventually did some work for Water 4 based out of OKC. But yeah, we just wanted to like tell our parents, tell our friends, tell the community members, like our teachers about this problem and, and make it fun too.
So there's something I want to dig into because you guys both are, like the story goes for both of you guys is like, we learned about this issue happening in the world. We realized we had some agency in responding to it. And then we did like a lot of work, and then we organized friends to like carry a jerry can around our high school. Like we did a fundraising event at a vineyard. We did, we painted fences on Saturday mornings. So like, I just wanted to just name that is not how most teenagers respond to learning about some sort of global reality. Like it's that's an unusual response, but and like obviously like a wonderful way, and in some ways mirrors my story, which is something Griffin and I have talked about some too. But yeah, I'm curious about like like if you all know why was it important to do all this for other people, for strangers? You'll never meet these people who you gave. Well, actually, before that, how much money did water clubs raise? Normal Water Club raise, but by the time, you graduated from high
After
school.
my senior year, I believe it was up to $60,000.
Yeah.
So you guys raised. Sound about right, Griffin?
Yep, 60, and then there were 2 years after you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then
I'm not sure, exactly how many, but over 60.
Over $60,000 while you are in high school. It keeps going after you. Nikki, you did a walk for water at Oklahoma University, and how much did you all raise at that one?
$12,000.
Raised $12,000 there. Griffin did one at Duke the next year, and so we're talking about over 1,000 people. So like a rule of thumb in like the water world that I use is about $50 provides someone with clean water access. $50 or $60 depending on the charity. So we're talking about you guys have, through water clubs, have provided clean water to over 1,000 people. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, why did you do all of that work? And I'm curious. Yeah. So I'm curious about that. And I'm curious about if you can like, is it worth it to do all the work too? Because it's super hard, to lead. It's super hard to like make events happen. And I hear what you're saying. It's like, well, I read a story about someone who was suffering or who suffered and died. And I hear that as an answer to the why. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, not everyone who reads stories on the news that are really hard then goes out and actually like responds creatively. And I'm trying to figure out what made Griffin and Nikki the way they are. And how we can inspire more people to be like you guys, because I think you're awesome.
Maybe it was just like, I think part of it was, man, when I was 15, I wasn't on CNN. Like I wasn't reading Wall Street Journal. I didn't have, I just wasn't intaking like all the negativity of the news cycle. And so I think that was a big part too, was like, man, that was the first big thing that really hit me, at least from like global humanitarian perspective. Like, man, here's a story and this is like a huge issue. I don't know. I just the stark contrast, like things were not adding up. Like I knew every fact about like NBA players. Like I knew all 386 NBA players when I was, 14 and 15. I'd play like trivia crack. I was in the top 1% for trivia crack for, these categories. I knew so much about that, but like just the contrast that like this, I'm taking on basketball here a little bit. But like the contrast that we have like at the NBA, it's like billions of dollars in revenue and like this obsession of sports. And like I was caught in that and I just had no idea. I don't know. It hit me like a freight train. That I was like so deep in this world of sports and like, I don't know, just excess. And then, yeah, I think I'll start with that. Nikki, what about you?
I was just playing my role, honestly. You were the leader for first 2 years, and then just the work that we did was very fulfilling. Like it kind of filled your heart up with like compassion. Like I did something good today for someone who I probably will never meet, but I mean the impact was still made, you know? And I think the organizations that we worked with did a good job of showing our impact. Like Charity Water would get back to us and the amount of people we gave clean water to, and they would show us pictures. Hope for Kids also did that as well. So although we never met them, it's just I feel like they did a good job of sharing enough information that you feel like you achieved something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just the question. I'm still asking this today of like, who is my neighbor? Jesus tells us to love your neighbor as yourself, and I don't know. I feel like my parents they taught me that from a young age, and I heard that like going to church. It's like she'll love your neighbor as yourself, but like, who is my neighbor and what does that actually mean? I don't know. I connected with Letikiros like she was my neighbor, like she was someone that I should care about.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, it seems to me like you guys were both raised in the kinds of environments and even families where like the notion of, hey, there are suffering people, who don't have like literally life's most basic resource, clean drinking water. And we're learning about that and learning we have agency to do something about that. And it's like, I just want to name that like it just sounds like you guys had like awesome families, like an awesome community. And in that context, like the notion of like, it almost seems like you're taking for granted how rare and crazy it is that you guys raised over $60,000 for global neighbors while you were teenagers. And yet, I don't know, I feel free to disagree with this, but it seems like you were actually in a particular context that made that kind of like just a normal reaction to, like, of course, if I have the opportunity to do this really meaningful, purposeful thing in service of other people, like I'm going to make it happen. And Griffin brought his I think of Griffin as an entrepreneur. I don't know if he thinks of himself that way, but Griffin brought his like entrepreneurial energy to that. Nikki, you brought this like just posture of like service, dedication, playing a role and taking it to the next level and bringing it forward. And so you guys brought your gifts to that. But it really is an incredible amount of impact for teenagers to make, essentially, and I'm curious about what you guys learned about leadership. So, Griffin, you were I want to say like founder and CEO when you were in high school, essentially playing that role, and had a successful succession which is a big deal for anyone who leads an organization. So you're able to pass the baton down to Nikki. Nikki took that baton and ran with it, led for a year at Norman High School without Griffin, and then brought it to OU. But what did you guys learn about what it means to be an effective leader from leading water clubs?
Man, I think first thing that jumps out is just motivations and being in tune with your own motivations as a leader, but also, being in touch with the people that you're leading and why they are a part of the group that you're in, why they are at the club meetings, why they are, going out and, painting fences on a Saturday morning. Like, why are we actually doing all of this? And I think one leadership lesson I wish I had learned was really explore and really ask people and get to the bottom of hey, why are we doing this? And don't stray from that. Always refocus. What is this about? Why are we here on a Tuesday afternoon lunch meeting? Why are we setting up for the Fall Fest on a Friday night, doing things that aren't that fun? Why are we watching this video? It's because people overseas are suffering and they don't have access to clean water. And that is something that we have access to. And there's something that we can do about it. And, we can have fun along the way. So people were in Norman Water Club. And we started it for, we could say that we all are altruistic. And we just want to help people. But there's a lot of reasons why people engage in charity. First, giving feels great. Giving makes you happier than spending. It's scientifically proven. Some people were in Water Club because the meetings, hopefully, I think they were fun. We had free pizza. That was a big draw.
Shout out Bucky.
Shout out Bucky. Some people were there because their friends were in it, or because they, initially felt pressure from me. I forced them to come. And some people were there because it was good for their resume, and it was good for Nikki and I. It's given us something to talk about. But I think being in tune with motivation and really learning how do you stimulate people's motivations to move them towards action for the cause. That's a really hard thing to do. And I think it was frustrating for me for a while. So
what was frustrating?
It was frustrating people not caring about the clean water crisis as much as I did. And that's just something that I had to come to accept, that it doesn't necessarily, clean water is not the issue for everyone. It's not the issue that gets them out of bed. And so, yeah, and that's okay. People have other things that get them out of bed. People have other issues that are important to them. But I think I was just so obsessed with water that it took me a while to realize that and to be okay with that.
For me, being president of Water Club taught me an important lesson to lead by serving. The moment I really felt like I was doing a good service to the water crisis is when, during my senior year, I'd be able to go to elementary schools because COVID restrictions were completely uplifted by that time. And I would host mini water walks around the school. And in those moments, I felt like I was serving. And that's where I really felt fulfilled. Water Club showed me the difference between service and serving someone and helping someone. Helping someone implies an unequal balance of strength. And service is when, as Christians, I believe we're called upon to see everyone as servants of God and equally. So I feel like serving really helped me. So with that mindset, I believe that leading with compassion and with service, is more fulfilling for your heart. And overall creates a better leadership, better leader.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, Nikki. Well, and I love that, like, that's, I think, really true. And you were getting the work done and getting, pulling together these big events and raising money for the global water crisis. And then even to bring that into your leadership of, like, while we are doing this for this cause, we're also going to be serving the people that we are leading in our community, and even serving elementary school kids so that they can learn about the global water crisis. And, like, I think sometimes we get into this, some nonprofits get into this, like, anything for the mission. And, or like get on the bus or the bus will run you over kind of mentality. But bringing in, I actually think it's more effective to have humility and a posture of service within leadership, even within any organization, even businesses. And a lot of businesses talk about this, and I think the best leaders in business or nonprofits or anyone who's listening to this who's a leader, actually the most effective leaders are servants. And that allows you to build trust, build rapport, and to have really more influence. So last question for you guys. Our slogan, recently adopted slogan at Simple Charity, is love generously. And honestly, I don't know if it's just like people in Norman, like Nikki and I were talking before this podcast about how people in Norman are just really nice.
It's true.
But I think that phrase, like love generously, I think it captures something of what we see how Jesus lived in the Gospels. But I actually do think of you two guys. I don't know if everyone in Norman is like Nikki and Griffin. If so, it's probably a wonderful place to live. But I just think you guys are the kind of guys who just have this just like warmth of spirit that you bring into all, relationships, and but then even bringing into how you're thinking about like a global issue like the global water crisis. But what are you guys learning these days about what it means to love generously?
I think for me is learning to love with more resources than money. I think as a college student, money is harder to come by. And just being more intentional about how I'm serving time, how I'm investing in relationships. And Nikki put it perfectly earlier, was, is service as leadership, and how you can love generously with time and just taking the time to check in on people, ask how they're really doing, like ask how you can pray for them, like how you can support them, and just pursuing people with love. I think that's been something that in college it's hard to budget time. There's a lot of things competing priorities, and so that's been the main resource that I've been trying to figure out how to love more generously with.
For me personally, loving generously means not only loving with like words and speech, but also with like actions, and like serving others. I want to bring up like my patron saint, Saint Nicholas, who became what we know today. Like, it inspired the idea of Santa Claus, and his story is very inspiring to me as my saint. And I think he's the perfect example of loving someone generously. He helped like the three sisters get out of slavery by using his resources to give to them. And I believe that perfectly represents the overall idea of loving generously.
Nikki, so you're like the Saint Nick of the water crisis. Thanks, guys. This has been great. Always love spending some time together and chatting, and just really appreciate you guys sharing your story on our podcast.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, this is super fun.
If you are a student and want to start a water club at your high school or college, please visit simplecharity.org/water-clubs to learn more. And please contact us, and we would love to start a conversation with you. The invitation to grow this week is to give $5 to a global water charity. Would you do that with me right now, actually, after you listen to this? If you don't know a water charity, there's lots of great ones. You can check out Charity Water, Water For, Water Mission, Life Water, Living Water International. Truly, there's a bunch of really good water charities out there these days. If you have any feedback on this episode, you can reach me at brian@simplecharity.org. Thanks for joining me on the Simple Charity Podcast. Next time, I talk to someone who has expertise in Christ-centered private education in underserved communities from inner city Atlanta to low-income countries around the world. I hope you'll join me as we continue to learn to love generously like Jesus. Have a great rest of your day.